Hello, everyone. This is Peter Holland Jr. of the Tallahassee Democrat, and I have a special guest. I'm here with ACC Network's own Taylor Tannebaum. She is the host of the ACC Huddle, and she will be here in Florida State on site for the game day crew, the ACC Huddle crew, that they get us prepared for the Florida State-Miami game, which is scheduled for Saturday at 7:30. Taylor, first of all, it's an honor to meet you in person, only through the screen, but it's good to meet you, Taylor. Welcome.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I'm always grateful when I get to talk to you guys, and I'm always excited when I get to come back to Tallahassee.
Yeah. First things first, I wanted to ask you when they offer you to be the host for ACC Huddle and the plans, what was like the initial thought of being part of that crew, and then fast forward, now you get to host game day in your alma mater.
Yeah. So it all happened pretty quickly. That's not the job I ever signed up to do, but it's always the hope that you get to move up in the ranks. I sidelined the year before on our ACC Network primetime crew in 2000, and I think that at this point, yeah, it was 23. And then the following summer, there was just some movement within the network, and the spot opened up to be the host of the huddle. And I got a call, and I was honored. So 24 was my first year doing it, and it was a ton of fun because we got to travel around and be part of that 8 p.m. prime time game. And then coming into this year, getting to go to the game of the week, like the big game, we switched up the mojo a little bit, has been such a blast. And that's why we get to be in Tallahassee, because typically in the past, we wouldn't have been able to come to this game because of our tie to that 8 o'clock ACC Network game. But now that we go to the best game, this is no question the best game on the slate. And I've had this one circled since July, knowing that we were going to the best game, hoping that Florida State was going to be good again, knowing Miami was going to be, that this is one that we would be attending because of just the magnitude. This is the first time it's been this big in like 2 decades. So here we go.
Yeah, I was just looking back and trying to remember the last time two Florida State and Miami were ranked at the same time. I think it was back in 2014, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's the fact that Miami's doing well and they're coming off a bye. Florida State, I mean, they come off a loss, but we can't ignore the fact that they're 3-1. They're ranked. They beat Alabama opening week. It's a complete build of them and how and a lot of storylines going into that game. What are some of the storylines that really kind of stood out to you? Is the rivalry itself, or just does a lot of things that factor into that?
There's a lot, but the few that jump off the page to me, if we're going to start on the Florida State side, it's one, what does your response look like? Last week was the first time they really faced true adversity. Like they came into that Alabama game and dominated. So any fears you sort of had were washed away early. Last week on the road at Virginia, there were some things that were exploited defensively. And with their backs against the wall, to their credit, they came back from a deficit and pushed it into double overtime. And, it was one of those that like one more play won the game for somebody else. So how do they respond coming off of a loss that, it was a tough loss. It was a hard fought battle. Virginia earned that every step of the way. And now you come back home and you have to defend home and defend your name against your arch rival. So, leadership was a big issue last year in 24 when they went 2-10. And I think we've seen a change this year in terms of people stepping up when they need to and being vocal and how they respond to adversity. And I think that should be on display this weekend, but I want to see it in person. And then on the Miami side of things, it's can they continue to maintain this level of play? Like, I think people will continue to just, as much as they're high on Miami, I think they will still continue to doubt them, waiting for them to suffer a misstep like they kind of have in years past. Like last year, they were in a very similar spot and they were rolling and they're undefeated and they're looking great. And then they drop an unnecessary game here and they drop an unnecessary game to Syracuse at the end of the year. And now they're out of the playoff. So for me in Miami, I want to continue to see this level of play. I expect Florida State to match it, but I don't want to see Miami take a step down. Like if you're going to be a complete team and really we haven't seen one team define itself as the top team in the country just yet. Miami can do that this weekend, very much so, against a great Florida State team that already knocked off a top 10 Alabama. I want to see them assert their dominance if that's what they're going to be. If they're going to be built in the trenches, I want to see that this weekend. And this is going to be one of their toughest tests to date. Certainly Notre Dame was tough, but I would argue Florida State at this point, especially with all the pomp and circumstance around it, this is going to be their toughest test.
Yeah, absolutely. Knowing that Miami, their first three games, I mean, granted, they were against ranked opponent. Notre Dame, we didn't know what was going to transpire. Right. USF, they were coming off hot after beating the Florida Gators, and then they just ran over them, and then they beat Florida right after. But also, I can take it a step further. What you said, like, think about it with Florida State when they started off 3-0, but they were all at home. And we didn't know what it would look like on the road. And look what happened when they lost to Virginia. I can argue that could somewhat can be the case for Miami, that we don't necessarily see what Miami look like on the road when you're in a different environment and you're going to be in the most hostile environment. You're going against your own rival. How are they going to respond when things don't go right for them when you're going against a Florida State that's proven that can beat someone that can be just as physical, if not better, than you?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. But, Miami's quirk this season is that they don't leave the state of Florida till November, the beginning of November. Their schedule just shapes up very strange. And so they haven't had to be pushed to the brink like that outside of their friendly confines, which is a blessing for them that, they get to be at home to start the season. But this is going to be a different environment. And the stadium is different and it's louder now, and with the change in environment and the construction and everything that's gone on, people are much more passionate, I feel like, this year than they certainly were last year. And it'll be just as big as the year before. But I would agree with you. Like, Florida State plays really good at home, and I think they will feed off this crowd. It's going to be under the lights, and if Florida State can hit them in the mouth early, that's where you want Miami. You want to hit them in the mouth early, because Miami has shown that they can respond when a team, puts them against a wall, like they did to Notre Dame. They responded to Florida, and they did it with a sense of urgency and with dominance. I'll be watching Tommy Castellanos, the quarterback of Florida State, and his dual threat ability. And obviously he's very confident in himself, as he should be. I'm going to be watching him and that Miami defensive line and how they attack him early. Can they get to the quarterback? Can they force him outside to make plays on his own? That's the big matchup for me to watch. And I think that's going to show up early and often.
I was going to look at the opposite direction. I want to see if this FSU defensive line can go see if they can pressure Carson Beck, because Carson Beck he's sitting pretty right now with Miami's offensive line, which is led by their right tackle, Matt Goa. That's how you say him? Mauigoa?
Mauigoa.
I'm sorry. Yes.
Just call him CC for short.
CC for short. Oh. But it's obviously going to be the battle of the trenches, and you kind of want that in a way. It's not the sexiest position out there to look at O-line, D-line play. We all want to focus on the quarterback, but you also like to understand the appreciation of how the offensive line, defensive line are the foundation, and that can be the sole reason they can get you to the national championship. And you just want to see that and be in display when those two go toe to toe, especially in ACC.
No, you're right. And that's the thing, is for Miami, that defensive line is their key. They are as good as it gets in the entire nation. And I would argue their offensive line too is solid. Carson Beck has about 10 seconds, it feels like, almost every play to throw the football. I would like to see more out of Florida State's defensive line. I think coaches are probably challenging them to do so. They'd love to see what they got out of the 2023 defensive line, and I think it's a work in progress, but they're getting there. Certainly a different style of defense with the 3-3-5 that Tony White brings. But if Florida State can apply the pressure, it makes it a very different ballgame. That secondary can do its thing. So I think that's an important part of the game. And two, for Florida State, this has been a great team on the ground. They can run the football 200 plus yards a game. It's been outstanding. If you can do that against a Miami team, look, Miami wants to steal your will. That's what they're all about. They take on their head coach, Mario Cristobal. That's what they want to do. They want to be on the field. They want to steal your will. Can Florida State do that by running the football down Miami's throat or continuing to at least press them in that area? So those are the matchups you're watching. It all starts inside. These aren't, as high scoring as both Florida State and Miami can be, and as fun as they can be to watch offensively. Like, these teams want to be built from the inside out, and they want to assert that dominance.
You probably have memories or some fair share experience of the FSU-Miami rivalry. You've seen it firsthand. Do you have any memorable games, events, anything prior to that, had the build up heading into the rivalry? Like, give me some stories, give me some juices about the whole thing or your experience.
I don't know that I have like a story that I can pinpoint for sure, but I will say my family is very divided. Like, I have a large segment of my cousins, Dan and Rocco, they're like diehard Miami fans. And keep in mind, like, I will be very fully transparent, as I always am as a journalist. I grew up a Gator fan. So, like, I never even grew up a Miami fan. That wasn't even on my radar. I grew up going to Miami games in the Orange Bowl because I lived in South Florida and it was a blast. And that's when they were as good as they could possibly be. But I grew up a Gator fan. So to me, Florida State was always a big deal. Like, that was always like massive to me. But as you got older and as with my family, we jab a little bit with the whole Florida State Miami thing. So my brother's a Florida State Seminole too. So we together will make bets with our cousins, and the other one has to wear a jersey type thing, and you got to post it online. So I don't have any like crazy stories of like rowdiness at games. It's sadly so hard for me to remember. It's been so long. It's been like 12 years since my last Florida State Miami game. But I can say that there will be crap spoken in our family group chat this weekend. And I have no issues with that. My cousins are actually coming. So it'll be really fun to have Miami fans in the building that I'm related to, that I can kind of, I have to be neutral, but we can still jar back and forth a little bit.
I'm a little bit biased myself. I am that's my favorite rivalry of all time. I don't care what anybody say. That's the greatest rivalry for me. But that's me. That's the Florida me speaking, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I grew up a Miami fan. I'm from South Florida. That's all I watch every Saturday. I enjoyed the fun times when the Hurricanes was good, but then you got older, things were not looking good. They
Right.
got rid of the Orange Bowl. Then I went to FIU, and nothing kind of made me look sweet when FIU beat Miami. So in a way, me and my coworker Liam was also an FIU alum. We always kind of make jokes about that.
Yeah.
But when you get older, you just learn to appreciate college football in general. You just don't think about the fanhood of it. And that's me
Right.
when I became a reporter. It's kind of fun just trying to be on the partial side, be more transparent, just looking at it from both sides.
And that's what's hard about this is I really, really want both Miami and Florida State to be in a playoff. I really, really want both of them to be good. Obviously, only one of them can win this weekend, but that's why I'm just begging for a good game where both teams like play up to their expectation. It's not like a one-sided affair, because I think for the first time in a long time, you're going to see really good football from both teams. And that's what makes this weekend exciting, is not just because it's the rivalry, but like I noted, I know it was a ranked matchup back in like 2013, 2014, but this feels a lot more like the stakes that you had in the 2000s. And that's so important. And the smack talk you're already seeing, like, Tommy, has said a couple of things, and Ruben Bain, the defensive end for Miami, is on Twitter crying, laughing faces, saying "y'all next" after Florida State lost to Virginia. Like, this is the way it's supposed to be, and I hope we just get the best version of both of these teams on Saturday, for real.
We were just talking with Earl Little
Yeah.
before I came up here, and he was just talking about how divided it is for him and his hometown. The
You
fact
know,
that he's from South Florida, his dad played for Miami, but he went the other direction, went to Florida State. I mean, not initially, he went to Alabama first, but then he went to Florida State.
right.
But and then you also got Deuce Robinson, who's having an insane year. He's a Florida. I mean, he didn't start for Florida State, but his dad was played all the way through his career and then having to come here. You kind of love those kind of storylines with guys who does have ties to both teams.
Oh yeah.
Uh, it's kind of amazing in a way. Another question I want to ask you, Taylor. I'm sure the audience would like to know too. Is like, what it's like working with Jimbo Fisher? What is he like?
It's actually been a joy. So when I was in college, he was my head coach. I was there from '09 to 13. So I got Coach Bowden's last year and then the transition to Coach Fisher. And then I obviously left right before the national championship. But EJ Manuel was my quarterback and Jimbo Fisher was my head coach. And I never really got to meet him back then. Even though I was in the sports production department and yeah, just we never really crossed paths. And I wasn't sure what to expect, but it's been so much fun to listen to him watch games. He's so smart, and it's no wonder he's one of the more successful coaches of all time. There's a reason he won Florida State a national championship as they came off of an era under Bobby Bowden that is so hard to follow. Like, you know how hard it is to follow a legend. Look at Alabama and Nick Saban. Look at, all these other places that have had to do it. Jimbo Fisher did that seamlessly. It's been really cool to just pick his brain and hear his stories. Like, that man can story tell forever. And I don't know that people realize, but he preps like he absolutely should. Like, he doesn't walk into this thinking like he knows everything. This man is watching the film. He is reading the notes. He is asking questions. And it's really cool. Like, he's taking this chapter very seriously as he would being a head coach. So we're happy to have him for as long as he'll be here. Don't know what his future holds. If he'll stay on ACC Huddle forever, that's great. But man, what a gem to be able to work with and to learn from, really.
Was there anything that you didn't know about Jimbo until you actually met him, or like something that you had a feeling, but you didn't realize until he actually spoke to you about it, or like anything particular that nobody knows about Jimbo until you brought it up?
Well, I always knew players loved him. Like, he was a player's coach for sure. And obviously the ultimate recruiter. Like, look at the way he dominated the state and the players he got there. His former players respect him so much. Like, they love him. Like, he talks to them all the time. He's constantly conversing with them and making sure those lines of communication are open. The respect that he commands from people is something, that you don't really always get to see. But that's been really interesting from fellow coaches, from former players, from players he went up against. That man demands a lot of respect from people, and he's earned it. You know what I mean? So that's been really cool to see just how many people really love Coach Fisher, and his stories are unmatched. Like, we had him on a podcast, me and my analyst, Eric McLean. He has a great podcast called the Gramlich and McLean podcast. And we had Jimbo on last week, and he told us some stories. I asked him about the transition when he found out, he was going to be Bobby Bowden's successor, like what the emotions of that were like. And he was really honest about it. And he was adamant that, like, when he came to Florida State, people thought like he was the natural heir, and he wasn't. Like, he wasn't sure he was going to get it, but just remembers getting that offer, and how there was also an offer on the table to potentially go back to West Virginia, his home, to coach at the same time. He had a decision to make, but he chose Florida State, and he chose to succeed one of his mentors in Bobby Bowden, and look how it turned out. Like, it's just kind of the way it was supposed to be. So I've learned so many things because he doesn't stop telling stories. I've asked him about really what happened with the Jameis Winston and coming out in his jersey first half and then being sent back out, pregame when he came out in his jersey when he was supposed to be, benched for the first half. I asked him like the truth behind that story. Like, it's been really fun to hear his version of things.
Have you ever met Lee Corso?
I haven't, and I'm excited because he'll be back in Tallahassee this weekend, and I'm hoping there's a way we can maybe have him on the show, or I get to meet him. But I know, as far as legends go for Florida State, they don't get much bigger than Lee Corso, and I have to imagine he is pumped to come back to Tallahassee this weekend.
Talk about timing of it. It's not only because of the Florida State-Miami rivalry, but there is really debate that with Florida State was going to even host college game day, right, even heading into the season. We would argue that Florida State and Alabama could have had the college game day
Right.
they here in Tally instead of Texas and Ohio State. But it just because it's Lee Corso coming back to his alma mater, that's alone is going to carry the enough weight where you at least got to consider. But it's a little downside they didn't get it, but it
I
was the
know.
fact that it would have been just amazing just having him. It still kind of feels, I don't know how to describe it. It's a little downer that it's that he's calling it off, and you just want to just think about all the memories he had the college game day with his predictions, the helmet gear. If he would have just came to Florida State, just at least do a spear, a war chant, or something for the crowd of how something that could be just worthwhile just to see.
I hope we get that this weekend. I hope we
Yeah,
do. Like I hope he comes out there and this is one more thing in a rivalry game can, galvanize the troops. Like that crowd will go berserk if Lee Corso's out there doing a little wave or a chop. You know what I mean? So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a special weekend. But yeah, we all miss Lee Corso. Like he was such a staple and an advocate for Florida State. Like look at that opening weekend. Like no one picked Florida State to beat Alabama except him. He knew.
business. He stood on business. I
He
can't be
did.
mad at that.
He
I mean,
did.
um, do you have a favorite Lee Corso moment that you enjoyed from watching College Game Day growing up?
I don't necessarily have one, but always like the last 5 minutes, you're locked in, right? Like even if I'm, especially in my post, college career, like in my working days, I've always covered college football. I lived in Alabama. Um, so obviously I was always watching game day on Saturdays. And it didn't matter if my morning was crazy or if I was driving to a game or, if it's a slow Saturday morning and I'm cleaning my apartment, you will stop at 11:50 to make sure you're in place to watch Lee Corso do his thing. Because then it's Saturday and it's time to kick off. I will say my senior year of college, I believe game day came to town. Uh, don't remember what game it was. It would have been 2012. I don't remember what game they came, but they came. And I was running around campus trying to find Aaron Andrews, like a crazy person. And Lee Corso was obviously in the mix too. So I did go out there and, that morning and see all the pomp and circumstances. Got to see him on stage. I didn't get very close, but I was there. I was definitely there. Maybe manifesting my future or something. I don't know.
At least you were there. Not many people can say
Yeah.
that could have been a bucket list for me if College Game Day happened to be here and where it just happened to be on site.
Yeah.
My
I did a story for my class on all the signs.
uh,
Yeah. And on headgear picks. I did a story. I would love to find that now.
have you ever tracked down the Wazoo guy, the Washington State guy?
No, but he has an incredible story. That flag reigns supreme.
For me, I always loved that dog is ugly. That's my favorite Lee Corso right there.
I
And
know, and the poor bulldog, it's not his fault.
little Ugga. I mean, I also spoke to a while back. I spoke to his son Dan, and he would just mention about his favorite moment is when he cursed on live air when he was making a Houston prediction. That was that it blew up real quick. His family was blowing up, is blowing him up. Like, did you see what happened on TV? Did you saw Lee Carlson curse it out? And he was telling me that Lee was like, well, okay,
Okay.
and just shrugged it off. But like, no big
He's
deal.
the OG. He doesn't care.
Yeah, they're not
And
gonna
I,
get
I
rid of
will say a couple of years ago when Duke hosted game day and he was out there in the leprechaun outfit with Kim Jong and they were like doing a little jig, like that was all time. Like that, it doesn't get much better than that.
for sure, for sure. Before I let you go, Taylor, I seen how the ACC is piling up right now. We've seen a lot of surprises,
Yeah.
not just with Florida State, but we're now seeing Clemson on the downhill. You're seeing North Carolina not looking good with Bill Belichick right now. Florida State doing what they're doing. Miami's doing what it's doing. Is there like something that's kind of a big shock to you? And do you feel like there's going to be one team that could actually be in the playoff hunt or at least be in that conversation?
The shock to me is definitely Clemson. I hate to bring it to a negative side, but I mean, I was just as shocked last year with what we saw out of Florida State. And my feeling is the same way. Now, I don't know how it ultimately ends up. I would believe that Florida State or Clemson, excuse me, has better internal leadership because of the maturity and longevity of a lot of these players within the program. Whereas last year for Florida State, it's a lot of transfers and not a ton of continuity. So I think it made it a little bit harder, but it's been really jarring to watch their struggles because that is like quite literally the last thing I would have expected for multiple positions. So that's been really strange. I do love Virginia's story. It is really nice to see in year 4 under Tony Elliott. Like, you know, he's a great head coach. You saw what he did as an OC at Clemson. There was no reason that they couldn't be successful on the field. They just had to have the resources. And they have it now. Like, they have investment in their football program, and you can see what happens when you do that. I do think this league can get 2 teams in. I'm not quite sure about 3 right now. If you throw in Georgia Tech, like, there's a possibility, but that's why I go back to my main point with this game this weekend. How both of these teams look is going to be mission critical to the big picture. You know, if Florida State plays it close and loses, you could still potentially see a 2-loss Florida State team. I doubt it but I don't know. But if they win this one, then you have a real race to multiple teams in the playoff for the ACC, I would argue.
For sure. And yeah, I'm with you with Tony. He's doing a great job in Virginia. I mean, I think I was just rewatching it this morning. I was just looking at Coach Elliott. I was like, man, he is pretty calm. He's like very, very calm, not overreacting or no emotional attacks until like after the game. And you can just see how the players just responded to their own adversity because they were missing guys. I mean, when they released injury reports, I got another question about that. And they still were able to hang around with Florida State. It just speaks highly in volume about how well coached this team is.
Yeah.
Same goes with Georgia Tech. I mean, Brent Key has not only have one loss against a top 25 team, an ACC top 25 team, and see what he's doing with the program. And it just shows that ACC is wide open, that anybody can beat anybody. But you can even say that in college football in general, that because of the transfer portal, because of the new age of college football, it kind of gives you that kind of NFL mindset that is any given Sunday. You can say the same for Saturday as well, because you can just not look at the schedule and just say, hey, we can beat this team, or you can just overlook and overshadow them. Because one bad game and you can get got. And we kind of saw that in display on Friday night.
Yeah, you saw it on Friday night. And then if you think big picture, you saw it over the course of the weekend in a couple of Power 4 leagues. Like, everyone was banking on an LSU great season. And I felt like weeks ago that this was an anemic offense, and they took a loss this weekend. And then you look at Penn State, who had a roster coming back full of talent and, a lot of experience, and they fall late to Oregon. So, if you look at some playoff pictures, both LSU and Penn State are already out. So obviously ways to work back in, but it's been a crazy year. The teams I think people expected to be at the top, like, it is not even close. So that's why maybe now more than ever, preseason rankings are absolutely irrelevant because of the portal, because of different investment, because players just in general are better than they ever were before.
Okay. Yeah. Also, I liked we get to see injury reports now, and we also during the game you can actually hear the officiating evaluating or reviewing a play from the office. I mean, what do you like about that? How much is that really just having the fans get a little bit of an insight of what goes on when the officiating crews are reviewing a call? I mean, does that sound game changer to you?
Yeah, it's huge. We as fans are so critical and harsh on referees. I don't think people understand fully the process at home, how quick bang bang these plays are, how quick bang bang people are watching and saying keep going. And we're trying to shorten games while also hoping that everything's perfectly accurate, and that's just not realistic. Obviously, you want the best officiating possible. But when you're at home in your living room having debates with your friends and your family, it's almost like you're in the room with them having debates, and you can actually listen to arguments and use that in your own at home in your living room. It's like you're all together going through it. So I think that instant gratification is huge, and you're really understanding the process. Like I don't think, it's really in every industry, especially in television. Like it's hard for people to understand what goes into making TV unless you know everybody's job, the audio people, the camera people, the people on air, the production people. Like there's so many pieces that go into it. This gives people an idea to respect people's jobs and understand how hard it is. And credit to the ACC for being willing to do it, for opening up their doors and being okay with criticism that comes along with it. But with that potential criticism has come so much praise. And I think that's a big thing for the Atlantic Coast Conference. Shout out to Jim Phillips and everybody who wanted to do this and be at the forefront, because I think a lot of other leagues are going to adapt to this, and they're going to bring it forward. And same with injury reports. It's important for analysts to know what's going on, because we can't give you the most accurate information if we don't have it. And obviously, I know the betting side of it is important too, but it's a game changer. You can really, really better analyze a game and be truthful and honest and to the consumer when you have all this information at your disposal.
There's no doubt for sure. Is there anything else you want to say, Taylor, before I let you go? I think we got everything covered.
Yeah, no, thank you. And obviously for me, just going back to Tallahassee is always such a full circle moment. And I'm excited because ACC Network this weekend we're expanding our coverage for the huddle. So not only is your huddle crew going to be on site, but Kelsey Riggs Cuff and Tom Luganbill and the legend Mark Richt will be there too. So we're going to have live coverage, not just in the morning, but post game too, and pregame inside the stadium. And myself, Coach Jimbo Fisher, Eddie Royal, and Eric McLean will also be part of an alternate broadcast on ACC Network. So you can watch us commentate the game as it goes, sort of like a McAfee-esque, Manningcast-esque type of production. We'll be sidelined, and to be able to do that this weekend on the biggest game in the country, I think is very cool and very special. And I think a moment for somebody like me to step back and realize how far I've come.
For those who wants to come but watch the ACC huddle, where in FSU, where is it going to be at? Where's going to be the location?
Okay, so ACC huddle live 10 to noon Eastern time outside of Heritage Fountain. So for people who don't know, it's outside Doak Campbell Stadium, basically right across from the circus, kind of down the right field line of baseball. So we will be out there. All of us will be there. There will be free breakfast. There will be t-shirts. There will be music, DJ. You can make some posters, have some fun with us, and come support the huddle coming to town to support the Seminoles and the Canes. Miami fans are more than welcome too. We want everybody to show up.
Hey, you already sold me on the free breakfast part, so I'll probably might just go myself just for that.
Come on out, and it'll be open early and it'll be jumping. And I know it's a late game, but what's a game day without starting early? Come on.
Absolutely. I mean, they're going to be there all day regardless.
Exactly.
I mean, it's an early tailgate. I mean, but yeah, thanks so much, Taylor. Thank you for your time. We'll definitely have a story coming soon with Taylor and FSU-Miami coverage all week long. Follow the Tallahassee Democrat. Taylor, how do we follow you on social media?
I'm pretty basic, at Taylor Tannebaum on Twitter and Instagram. There you have it.
Pretty straightforward. I mean, mine is a little bit complicated, but they can just find me anyways by just typing my name. But thanks to God, Taylor, and thank you everyone for listening in, tuning in, and follow the Tallahassee Democrat at Tallahassee.com. No sports. We'll have everything covered.